Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is said to be very close to committing his future to Manchester United. Hey guys, Fletch here, bringing another Fletch Talks video. You know the drill by now. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This, of course, is where I bring a trending topic or a topic of discussion to the forefront, put it under the microscope here, where we talk about it, discuss it, and maybe even debate a little about it. And today's video is centering around the news that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is reportedly very close to pledging his future to Manchester United, committing his future for another 3 years to be manager at Old Trafford. Before we go any further though with the video, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get back to talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The news has been floating around for some time now that a new contract was set to be signed by the Norwegian, and it could even be confirmed by the time this video goes up, but it is said to be very close to being confirmed and being within the public kind of arena. And the club are said to be very happy with Solskjaer going forward, for not just on the pitch results, but for how he's conducted himself and how the club have helped him with that off the pitch too. And with 1 year remaining on his current contract, on his original contract, the club have decided to act quickly before the season's over in order to tie him down and try to commit his future to the club. I look at this and I say that I think overall, if you're a rival fan of Manchester United, then you're quite happy with this news, in all honesty. I don't believe that Solskjaer is the right man to take United back to title-winning ways like the club were under Sir Alex Ferguson. And I think that the best you're going to get out of Solskjaer would be a top 4 finish and maybe a decent cup run. And that's depending on if he can overcome this seeming like fear or jinx or whatever you want to call it of semi-finals. Then maybe, you know, if he can conquer that fear, then maybe some sort of silverware will be in United's future. I just don't know how big the scale is of how big the trophy will be. But given how other teams around them have conducted their business on and off the pitch and are seemingly more ambitious, given their resources, their money, and in terms of a plan going forward in how to get their club back to the top of England, back to being the kings of England, so to speak, I don't see the same ambition coming from the United board on that scale. And that's why for them, Solskjaer is seen as being a safe bet here, a safe horse to back, a man that they can now trust to get them to achieve top 4 season after season, get them into the Champions League year after year, and as a result, of course, they rake in that Champions League money, and also a good cup run here and there is a good attempt to keep the paying fans interested, or so they think anyway. And if you're a United fan on the other side of the fence, however, I reckon some of you will agree with me on this. I feel United fans think in a very similar way to how I put it, in that Solskjaer, they believe, may not be the right man to bring them league title success or even like Champions League titles back to Manchester United, back to Old Trafford. And that is nothing personal against Solskjaer. It's just probably the case that overall and on the whole of it, on the bigger scale of it, on the bigger picture, Solskjaer may just not be good enough in an all-round aspect as a manager in order to achieve what he's being asked by the fans to achieve. Every manager makes mistakes, even the best like Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, of course, but they're proven winners. Solskjaer right now isn't. But of course, many would also argue that he's not the problem, or he's at least not the main problem. Whether you're Solskjaer in or Solskjaer out, whether you're happy or not with this decision to give him 3 years more at Manchester United, should he obviously commit his future, is seemingly irrelevant, because the bigger problem here is, of course, the United board, the United hierarchy. You know, this is dating back even before Solskjaer, back to just after Sir Alex Ferguson left. People will point the finger and point the blame at the United board, and honestly, I can't really blame them. the lowering of standards seems to be huge. They've shifted their goals from being the Kings of England at one point, top of the tree, so to speak, knocking Liverpool off their perch, the famous Sir Alex line, of course. Now they've shifted their goals to settling for a top 4 finish and being happy with the money side of football. It's more of a business than it is a football club, raking in that Champions League money, the commercial income, bringing in a big name every now and again to kind of boost shirt and merchandise sales or whatever it is, and just all round rinsing the club for every single penny that they have, and whilst giving and putting next to nothing back into the club in order for them to achieve going to the levels that Manchester United have been in the past and want and need to be competing at again in the future. And look, I think overall, I think this season, I think we can agree that United will finish in the top 4. It seems pretty much nailed on now that United will go on to finish either 2nd, 3rd or 4th, depending on how the rest of their season pans out. But at the same time, I think that top 4 for them is pretty much nailed on. And right now, of course, they are sat in 2nd place, which makes it seem like they've put together a bit of a title challenge. But the reality of the situation, of course, is that they haven't. It's not a title challenge. The title challenge pretty much lasted, or title challenge pretty much lasted a good couple of weeks before hitting a massive bump in the road and then ultimately costing them the title challenge, because Manchester City went on to take full advantage of everybody else's inconsistency and raced away clear. And since then, of course, United have managed to stay ahead of the rest of the inconsistent teams that are making up the remaining places, of course. But the United board are happy with this. The United board seemingly are very happy with this, as I've mentioned. The top 4 finish and the spot in next season's Champions League is what they set out for, it seems. And, you know, this is exactly what they achieved last season. There's very little progression here, and there are a lot of things that you can look at this season and say, you know, this is why this happened, this is why they got further this season, this is why they've moved up a couple of places, and so on and so forth. Because if you remember, last season they only just managed to scrape through to 4th because obviously they beat Leicester on the final day of last season. But let's be real, this isn't, you're not trying to impress footballing people here. These are business people that see the money side of the game, and they're very easily impressed. You show them some good results, they're happy with it. They're not going to look at the substance behind it. They're not going to look at the reasoning behind it. They're just going to be looking at the results and the money side of this. And that is exactly what the Glazers and everybody else in the backroom staff and the hierarchy of Manchester United are looking at. To anyone who knows football, you know the reasons why United have somewhat overachieved, some may say, a little this season. Many people probably put them through to just scrape top 4 once again. Many people probably put them to finish outside of the top 4. But to comfortably finish within the top 4 may be seen as a little bit of an overachievement. But let's face it, with Liverpool and Chelsea's issues, for example, this season, along with the problems going on at Spurs and Arsenal, United have took full advantage of that situation and have reached where they are because of the team they are, but also because they took advantage of other teams' failures. But you've got to imagine that these sides will be strengthening and will be back next season and will put in more of a fight, more of a challenge, and it just depends on how ambitious this United board are as to whether they remain, go a step further, or whether they crumble and fall away. Like I say, the guys in charge of United are facts and figures, guys. They are, let's have a look at the results. Let's have a look at how much money that brings us. We'll make a decision based upon that. You can tell them the football may not be great on the pitch. You can tell them that some of the members of the squad may not be good enough or at a Manchester United level. You can tell them the reasons why United have hit the heights that they have for this campaign. But it may be a waste of breath, because in the end, if they achieve their own goals for this club, which seem a lot different to the goals in the minds of the majority of the United fan base, then they are happy. They are happy with top 4. They are happy with Champions League. They're not going to go out their way, it seems, to go after the big trophies like they did when Sir Alex Ferguson was in charge. Because let's be real, if the board did genuinely show any real title-winning ambition, then they would have given Solskjaer exactly what he wants. They would give Solskjaer the resources, the money to go out and do whatever it is or whatever it takes to get them to where they need to be. They would have gone out at the end of last season and they would have said, here's the money, go and buy Jadon Sancho. They would have saw that their fierce rivals of Liverpool had claimed their first Premier League title in 30 years and gone, here's the money, go and bridge that gap on Liverpool, or even better yet, here's the money, go and overthrow Liverpool next season, like, in order to compete. A little bit like what Chelsea had planned at the beginning of this season when they went on their massive spending spree when Frank Lampard was manager, of course. They had a ruthless transfer plan. United haven't had one of them in a while. They haven't had the structuring, the kind of insight, the thought, the foresight, the planning, all that in years. And it's a big display of how expectations and standards have been lowered at this club over time. And I just don't see that Solskjaer having the managerial capabilities of pulling the rabbit out of the hat, so to speak, here, and winning a league title or a major trophy like the Champions League with his own managerial ability, mixed in with what seems to be a lack of ambition by the club's owners. I just don't see how those two can combine to make United the real force that they were back in, the 2000s and early 2010s. And like I say, it's nothing personal against Solskjaer. Not by me, not by United fans. It's nothing personal. They will always hold him in high regard as a legend at the club, I feel, for what he did as a player and for how he's conducted himself as a manager, coming in at a difficult time following the Jose Mourinho reign as a manager, where things turned a little sour, things were a bit disjointed and a bit disconnected at that club, steadying the ship. And he's gone on to lay the foundations for someone else, maybe with a better managerial standard than him, to come in and perhaps elevate this squad even further and take it up to another level. But what does go against him, I think, is that sometimes the level and standard of football his side plays isn't the United way, isn't necessarily good enough. It can be a bit poor at times, and often they do rely on a piece of individual brilliance from someone like a Marcus Rashford or especially a Bruno Fernandes. And often it's his tactics or substitutions that are often called into question when things go wrong. But ultimately, when it does bring in results, the United board are obviously happy. They only care about the results rather than care about how they get them. And like I say, for Solskjaer, 3 more years in the job is good for him. I think it's good for every rival fan, including myself, of course. I think it's good that he's still in the job because I don't see that United will be a major threat to big trophies and big titles again for the foreseeable future, at least not on a consistent level. But for United fans, I can see why that they may not be too happy with this. But again, it's not necessarily about the manager. Whether he deserves it or not, whether you think you're Ole in or Ole out, whichever, the board are the main problem, and they are what needs to be removed from this club if they want to be challenging again like they were under Sir Alex Ferguson. But of course, as I always say, these are just one man's thoughts and one man's opinions on this particular topic. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? What do you make of the timing of his new contract, or said to be new contract? Does he deserve it? Does he not deserve it? Are you Ole in, Ole out? What about the Glazers? What about Ed Woodward? What about everything that's going on at Manchester United right now? I'd love for you to get in the comment section, because I'm sure your thoughts, comments, opinions and whatever else you got for me will make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will soon speak with you all again soon in another video.